Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, February 15th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The end is near once again when it comes to the mask mandates in San Diego County, but don't put them away just yet. As KPBS reporter John Carroll shows us, masks are still required in some settings for now.
Masks on, masks off. It's become a familiar back and forth since Governor Gavin Newsom imposed the first mask mandate back in June of 2020. This most recent mandate was put in place 2 months ago as Omicron surged. Then on Monday, the Secretary of California's Health and Human Services Agency made this announcement.
To allow the guidance for public indoor settings for vaccinated individuals to move from a requirement to a strong recommendation.
You'll notice on that graphic, masks are still required in plenty of settings, public indoor places for unvaccinated people, and masks are still required for everyone in all transit facilities, also healthcare facilities, schools and childcare, long-term care settings, and in jails and prisons. But even that one change from required to recommended is too much for one local infectious disease specialist.
As somebody that's been really on the front lines and still seeing many people with COVID, I feel like it's just a little bit premature.
Masks will continue to be required in K-12 schools, though the San Diego Unified School District said today masks will be optional beginning tomorrow for students and staff for outdoor activities, including field trips. Dr. Galley says the state will reassess requirements for schools at the end of this month. That, says San Diego attorney Kiana Keton, could lead to litigation from parents who want the mask requirements to stay in place.
There are going to be parents who are not happy about having their children exposed to other students, in particular students who may have special medical needs.
But the unmasking trend, for now at least, seems unstoppable. Today, Disneyland announced it's dropping mask mandates beginning Thursday. And the giant Coachella Music Festival says not only will masks not be required this year, people won't have to show proof of vaccination or a negative test result either. As for Dr. Ramers, he says he understands the human impulse to get back to something like normal. But whether it's a new variant or a new disease, he says we should be prepared for the next big health challenge.
This is going to happen again. I can say with really quite certainty that it will, just a matter of when.
But for now, you can practically hear the sighs of relief, supported by data showing us moving quickly in the right direction after 2+ years of riding the COVID roller coaster. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And doctors are reminding everyone that vaccines provide the best protection against serious illness from COVID. So why aren't more people getting their booster shots? We'll take a look at the issue coming up on Evening Edition. It took decades and big dollars to develop, but now a new 9-mile carpool lane is a reality along the I-5. North County reporter Tanya Thorne with a look at where it's located and what's to come next.
The I-5 has been notorious for its heavy traffic, but North County commuters are getting some long-awaited relief. A 9-mile northbound carpool lane is now open from Solana Beach to Palomar Airport Road in Carlsbad. The southbound lane over the same stretch will open in a couple of weeks.
That 9 miles will allow people to travel between here and there in a carpool lane that will reduce congestion and reduce emissions and incentivize driving together.
During a ribbon-cutting ceremony on Tuesday, Encinitas Mayor Catherine Blakespear called the opening a major milestone for North County.
We see with these projects government really delivering for our communities.
Construction of the carpool expansion began late 2016. Gustavo Delarda with Caltrans says it's part of a bigger project happening around the 5 corridor.
This is part of an ongoing $875 million effort that includes widening the freeway, for additional HOV lanes, but also includes double tracking, bike paths, walking trails, and lagoon restoration.
The northern part of the carpool lane expansion from Palomar Airport Road to the 78 freeway is expected to be open next year. Construction is still ongoing, and officials recommend to watch out for workers and respect the speed limit reductions until construction is complete. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Officials from the United States and Mexico are now saying that a new border crossing planned for Otay, Mesa might be finished ahead of schedule. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis says the new crossing is expected to reduce border wait times and boost economic activity in the region.
California's Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kalinakis said during a briefing Monday afternoon that Mexico has secured most of the public right-of-way for their share of the new border crossing.
This is obviously very, very important and is proceeding with the design and construction on the Mexico side of the border. As you can see, it has started on our side already.
The U.S. has already secured the land, approved the designs, and began construction on its side of the border crossing. And even though Mexico has yet to start construction or finalize design plans, officials say the project could be completed slightly ahead of their 2024 schedule. Also at the briefing was Congressman Juan Vargas, who represents the border region. He says he's excited about the potential of the new crossing, but worries about low staffing, which is the main driver of long wait times. He doesn't want to build a multi-million-dollar facility only to have lanes closed because there aren't enough customs agents to fill them.
What we don't want to happen is we don't want staffing to come from San Ysidro and Otay Mesa and be brought here, because then we'll have the problem there. In fact, they need quite a bit more staffing.
Vargas is asking Congress to allocate more money to hire additional Customs and Border Protection staff. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
A driver was taken into custody at Naval Air Station North Island after potential bomb-making materials were found in his car. A base spokesperson said that a man who was the subject of an NCIS investigation was spotted at the 3rd Street gate to the base around 9 o'clock this morning. A security officer questioned the driver and searched the car, finding the suspicious items. The spokesperson said the 3rd Street gate and the gate on McCain Boulevard would be closed until further notice. As the tensions in Eastern Europe intensify, local Ukrainian Americans worry about family and friends who live there. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado met with a couple who wants peace, but not at the cost of their motherland's freedom.
For Askold and Nadia Haywas, watching the images and escalation of tensions happening on Ukraine's border with Russia is personal.
It's quite stressful. It's one word, uncertainty.
They live in Oceanside, and while they met and married in America, their families are from Ukraine. Askold, a former U.S. Marine, immigrated to the U.S. as a young boy.
Proud of me, of being a Ukrainian American.
Both still have family and friends there. Visiting the House of Ukraine in Balboa Park makes them feel a little closer to their loved ones, thousands of miles away.
Ukraine is always in my heart.
I'm here. I'm safe. I'm comfortable. And yet, what can I do?
They're worried for their safety if Russia were to invade and conflict were to break out.
You sort of wish that they were all here with you, pack them into my house and put beds down and et cetera, and that'd be perfectly fine by me.
But they're trying to prepare in case the worst were to happen.
A little like what we do if we have fire season. You know, you make sure you know where all your documents are so you have them if you need them.
Yet in the face of uncertainty, as troops gather on both sides and the U.S. and its allies send support, their loved ones of all ages tell them they will not leave.
They were born there, they lived there, they grew up there, their grandparents are buried there, and it is their country, and he has no rights to it. Why should they leave? They are ready to fight.
They are united for one free, democratic Ukraine, and they will fight, and they will die for it.
And from America, all they can do is pray for peace, but support them in their fight.
Борітеся, поборете. Fight, and you shall win.
I think I would have to repeat exactly what my husband said. Борітеся, поборемо. We cannot give up.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
The number of killings by domestic extremists rose The U.S. According to the Anti-Defamation League, there were 29 such killings nationwide in 2021 after counting 23 in 2020. The Jewish civil rights group says far-right extremists were responsible for 26 of those attacks, and many were fueled by conspiracy theories, misogyny, and the anti-vaccine movement. They say roughly half of the 2021 killings didn't have a clear ideological motive. It took years, but now there's a settlement in a court battle between the families of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting and Remington. As Daryl Forges reports, the case alleged the gun company should be held liable for damages related to the deadly 2012 rampage.
Today is a day of accountability for an industry that has thus far enjoyed operating with immunity and impunity.
Gunmaker Remington has agreed to the settlement with the families of 5 children and 4 adults killed in the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School.
Every single day we miss who Rachel would be.
The settlement comes more than 7 years after the lawsuit was officially filed. Remington manufactured the Bushmaster AR-15 style rifle used in the 2012 attack that left 20 children and 6 adults dead in Newtown, Connecticut.
It's not a useful weapon for hunting or for self-defense. It was designed to kill quickly and efficiently.
With Remington now in bankruptcy, families will split the $73 million settlement. Plaintiffs' attorneys say that is all the available coverage that Remington's 4 insurance carriers could pay. The other key part of the deal, the families have gained access to thousands of pages of internal company documents, and their attorneys say they have the right to make them public.
But you are going to get
lawyers for the families claim Remington knowingly and negligently marketed military-grade weapons to unstable individuals.
These families, they would pay everything, to give it all back just for 1 minute. That would be true justice.
Daryl Forges, KPBS News.
2 local congressmen from both sides of the aisle have reintroduced a bill to remove spent nuclear fuel from decommissioned nuclear sites, including San Onofre. The bill would prioritize removal of nuclear waste from facilities with large populations, high seismic hazards, and in areas representing a national security concern. All of those things are true for the shuttered plant near Oceanside, making it one of the highest priority sites in the nation. Democratic Representative Mike Levin and Republican Representative Darrell Issa sponsored the bill.
It truly is a bipartisan issue. It's proof that we can work together in a productive way for our community. And it's really important that as we consider a solution for the nation's spent nuclear fuel challenges, when we find a place to store and eventually dispose of the waste, that we begin by removing waste from areas with the highest environmental risk.
The bill is also co-sponsored by local Democratic Representative Scott Peters, along with 3 other California lawmakers. A major shift in the weather today. There were scattered showers across the county, bringing some much-needed moisture after a record dry January. Enough to use the wipers and water the grass. And it looks like we're in for more changes this week. Meteorologist Jessica Pash has your forecast.
We've seen a big-time drop in temperatures across Southern California from just this past weekend into the beginning of the new work week. All that has to do with the big digging trough with the storm dropping south, brought us some showers, and there is even still that possibility of that through tonight. But after that, drier weather is going to be returning, and we're going to be warming up again for the later part of the work week. For now, we do still have some strong winds, especially in the mountains, as high wind warnings remain in effect through late tonight. Those will be allowed to discontinue during the overnight period, where temperatures are going to be dropping down into the 30s in Oceanside and Escondido and Vermona. Bregel Springs getting back down into the low 40s for you again. Still some lingering cloud cover and even that possibility of a couple of rain showers. In the higher terrain, we're looking at that possibility of a little bit of a rain-snow mix overnight. And then as we head into your Wednesday, it's a dry day. Here is that upper level low sliding off to the east. Drier weather returning on the backside here as temperatures remain in the 60s for you in Oceanside, 67 in San Diego, Chula Vista getting up to 64. 64. Low 70s in Borrego Springs, but the trend is our friend, and it's going to show temperatures that are going to be on the rise over the next couple of days. You'll notice the chill lingering across the four corners, but milder air here across much of California. So near the coast, temperatures returning into the 70s for you, upper 60s to low 70s Thursday into Friday, and then cooling off again towards the second half of the weekend as we get another trough that's going to be digging southward. Further inland, temperatures getting up into the mid to upper 70s for you Thursday, Friday, into Saturday, and then again feeling that cool down as we head towards the second half of the weekend. In the mountains, mid to upper 40s for you Thursday, Friday, Saturday, perhaps warming up on Sunday into the 50s before you cool off again as we head into next week. And in the deserts, temperatures here seeing a similar trend. Low 70s Wednesday, Thursday, climbing into the mid to upper 70s Friday and Saturday, and then cooling off as we head towards the second part of the weekend and into next week. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
A new report projects the sea levels along American coastlines will rise by 10 to 12 inches in the next 30 years, or about as much as they rose in the past 100 years. And that would amplify hurricane storm surge, coastal erosion, and wetland loss. The report, led by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, says sea level rise projections are essentially locked in through 2050. And after that, it's highly dependent on how much the world cuts fossil fuel emissions and limits global temperature rise. Gas prices in San Diego are nearing the all-time record high set a decade ago. Today, the average price of a gallon of regular is $4.71. That's just 1 cent shy of the record set in October of 2012. The average is also nearly 9 cents higher than a month ago and more than $1 higher than a year ago. Gas isn't the only thing we're paying more for these days. Supply chain issues have also led to price increases for cars, for food, and homes. And as Amy Kiley reports, we could soon be paying even more.
The forces the Russians have massed, they could launch at any point.
Ukraine might be far away, but a further Russian invasion there would probably cost you money here. That's because it's not so easy to export goods from a war zone. Here are 4 ways a Russian attack on Ukraine could affect you financially. 1, you might have to pay more for gas. Russia is the world's second largest producer of oil. Prices are already spiking. Some analysts say conflict in Ukraine could send them over $100 a barrel. Prices haven't been that high in 7 years. 2, global food prices could increase. Russia is the world's top exporter of wheat. Ukraine produces wheat and corn.
If any conflict which disrupts those flows will help to only tighten agricultural markets quite significantly.
3, you might have to pay more in interest on your next loan. The Federal Reserve is already hinting it'll raise interest rates. Increased inflation could add to its motivation.
This is not a good situation. We have to reassure people that we're going to defend our inflation target and we're going to get inflation back to 2%.
4, you might take a hit to your stock portfolio. Markets fell Monday when the U.S. said it would close its embassy in Ukraine. Investors know the world economy is connected.
The whole world has become dependent on Russian petro money. We're all going to have a fundamental rethink of whether or not the price is worth it to be so dependent on Russian money.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Babies whose mothers were vaccinated against the coronavirus during pregnancy may have some protection from the virus. That's according to a new CDC study published today. It found infants are protected for the first 6 months of their lives. Researchers say women who got vaccinated later on in their pregnancies have an 80% chance of protecting their babies, and that chance reduces to 32% if they got it early on. As daily COVID-19 cases continue to drop, so does the pace at which people are getting their booster shots, and it comes at a time when mask mandates are being lifted across the country. Mandy Gaither explains why that's raising concerns for some health experts.
The pace of new COVID-19 booster shots now at an all-time low in the U.S. as many pandemic precautions are being rolled back in cities and states.
We're not where we want to be with COVID hospitalizations, but the trend is definitely in the right direction.
The latest CDC data shows about 64% of the U.S. population is fully vaccinated. About 28% have received a booster shot. Among those eligible for a booster, less than a third who originally got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine have been boosted, compared with 52% of those who received their initial 2 doses of Moderna and 47% who got the Pfizer vaccine.
We certainly, I think, have reached a point where there aren't going to be a lot of people voluntarily kind of seeking out vaccines. That crowd is all vaccinated. So we're going to have to use other policy efforts. We should continue doing outreach to people to try to make it easier. We can't quite give up yet. I think we need to keep working on vaccinating more people.
The newest booster data comes as many mask mandates are being lifted, and the CDC hasn't changed its guidance when it comes to COVID restrictions.
But right now, we've got the state saying one thing and the CDC saying they're looking at this again, and that's just not enough.
With a vaccine decision delayed for children under 5, one health official says prevention remains the best medicine.
Take all the precautions you know that at work, whether it's masking, social distancing, hygiene.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
While new COVID cases are dropping, the U.S. is still averaging more than 2,300 new deaths a day. That's according to Johns Hopkins University. Officials say being fully vaccinated and boosted provides the best protection against severe outcomes from the virus.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Biden warns Russia could still invade Ukraine, despite claims that some troops are pulling back. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
More supporters have joined the effort to guarantee arts and music education in every public school. It's a proposal trying to make it on the California ballot this November. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has the update.
Live performances are back here at the historic Star Theater Company in Oceanside. And this one is really funny. The Play That Goes Wrong is a comedy running through Sunday. The actors and production team have great timing and a sense of humor, but they take their art form very seriously.
We are trying to get enough signatures so that we can get it on the ballot.
Holly Shockley is a cast member, and at Saturday night's performance, she was in the lobby collecting signatures, too. This is the grassroots effort in action to collect 1 million signatures by May 1st. Californians for Arts and Music Education in Public Schools is the group pushing a ballot measure that would guarantee $800 million of the state's education budget every year to be distributed to every public school in California, with no loophole to divert the funding.
I always grew up with a love for the arts, and it was always something that was on the chopping block. So to have money earmarked for our schools to cultivate this love and passion that ultimately breeds better communicators, better community leaders.
The ballot measure has the backing of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, yes, the Oscars, and one of its most famous members.
Self-expression is joy. For a kid to get a sense of himself or herself through just the creative act, I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
This week, the ballot measure campaign is launching signature collection locations at schools in the Los Angeles area. They are also looking for support here in San Diego County. The Star Theater Company hopes others will follow their lead in supporting the next generation of artists.
If they're getting in-school arts programs, music, theater, fine arts, they're learning these things, and they can get involved at the Star Theater after school during the summer, on weekends, and then they can really hone that craft and take it to another level.
Live theater entertains and inspires. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Death-defying jumps, gravity-defying stunts, and stomach-churning speeds are hallmarks of the Winter Olympics. But one decidedly chill sport is also captivating audiences: curling. As North County reporter Alexandra Nguyen shows us, it's something you can pick up right here in San Diego.
It's early Sunday morning, and these curlers are on the ice tossing a few rocks, to use the lingo of the sport. It's the only time they can find to get some practice in this month.
Curling, we're kind of on the last of the list, so we have to fight for our ice time.
Owen McLaughlin is a member of Curl San Diego, a club dedicated to the sport of curling. He says because of limited ice rinks in San Diego, ice time is mostly reserved for hockey and ice skating.
The objective of curling is simple. You use a 42-pound stone and you slide it down that way.
It's a skill that's easy to learn, but a lifetime to master, as demonstrated.
Whoa.
But every 4 years, when the Winter Olympics rolls around, more people become interested in the sport and want to try their hands at it. That's how Misty Daniel got started.
For me, it was the Olympics in the 80s. It was a bonding moment with my mom, and she was really excited about curling, and she's the one who kind of got me excited about it.
It was the same for transplants Rob Clapham and Ian Harris. Both got into curling in the East Coast right after watching the Olympics. When they moved to San Diego, they immediately started looking for a club to join.
First thing I wanted to do was try to find where a curling club was, and I was really happy to see that there was one that was 15, 20 minutes from where I'm living, so immediately started looking to join.
I actually lived in Denmark, where curling is huge, for a year and a half, and when I got over to San Diego, I said I got to get back into curling.
For those wanting to live out their dreams of Olympics glory, Curl San Diego is offering classes beginning in March. Sign-ups are available at curlsandiego.org. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Okay, that does look like fun. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.